The following is a sped-up NASA film clip of the Aurora Australis. One thing that is unique about this clip is that it shows the aurora emanating from an orifice in the continent of Antarctica. This observation flies in the face of the accepted theory that the aurora is directly caused by the solar winds. We suggest that radiations from the Sun, including the solar winds, well up within the hollow portion of the Earth and are expelled at times, causing the auroral display at a certain altitude of friction. Perhaps you would like to familiarize with this concept of an upshooting aurora. Testimony from the Arctic explorers of yesteryear can help. Upwards Aurora. Nansen, on page 106 of his book Farthest North says, presently it shimmers in tongues of flame over the zenith, and then again it shoots a bright ray up from the horizon. Notice that Nansen states that the aurora shoots up from the horizon. He does not describe, for example, that the aurora shoots downwards from outer space. Here you will find still shots extracted from the clip which show the point of origin of the aurora. Please note that our humble efforts have not produced the same quality of resolution as the NASA clip. At this point we can focus on another unique characteristic of this NASA clip. Its satellite imagery clearly shows the location of the southern orifice. A made-to-order clip could not serve our purposes better. What you should keep in mind as you peruse the following images is that the opening is not a matter of flat surface where a hole opens up such that the opening is formed by a right angle drop. The area around the opening, in other words that whole side of the Antarctic, is a basin or depression which funnels down into the orifice in a way similar to an hourglass because, of course, the orifice flares open on the other side. The problem is that this depression, which is 3D, is being represented on a two-dimensional surface, a flat map, such that the opening gives the impression of a straight-down hole being drilled on a flat surface. Again, it is not exactly like that. In the first image, a dark point can be seen within the pink circle. Basically, it sits between the American McMurdo Base, the South Pole, the Russian Vostok, and sits within a thin strip denominated unclaimed territory on Antarctic maps. At this point, this image shows that the aurora is spouting out from the opening. Again, the point of origin for the outflowing aurora is seen. Towards the end, the outflow is more intense, and it can be seen that the solar winds are brushing the outflowing aurora to one side. Ditto for this image. Finally, the opening can be seen with the diffuse aurora around it. Thus, these NASA images demonstrate that the aurorae originate from within the Earth, that they are expressed through the polar orifices, and the images pinpoint the location of the southern polar orifice, for all time, better than any of our efforts could do. These images from NASA archives were brought to our attention by Jones M.C. Nibley. At this point it would be helpful to refer another NASA image and its interpretation, which can be found at RadarSat. Rod M. Clough states, if you blow up the RadarSat image of the area I have identified as the South Polar opening, you can see fog coming up out of the opening on the right side of the dark area. Now why would fog be coming up out of this area if it's not the opening? I think this fog may be our first clue that this is the area we have been looking for. Also, notice that towards the top left is an area where there is a lot of icebergs that regularly break off the Antarctic ice and that there is a definite flow of ice from this dark circular area located at what I estimate to be 84.4 degrees south latitude, 39 degrees east longitude. Looking at the edges of this dark area of low radar reflectivity I see a definite depression. On the sides you can see clearly the surface details which taper off in clarity towards the dark area caused by the sloping angle as you enter the depression. I think we all need to take another close look at this RadarSat image. We need to consider the fog coming out of it, the tapering off of the reflectivity with change of slope, and the flow of ice from this direction. Antarctic Wind Pattern Map. The Antarctic wind pattern map shows that the Antarctic wind patterns originate in an area off towards the Queen Maud's Land, Africa side of Antarctica. Since the winds are really a matter of the warmer air emanating from within, this gives us an indication of the location of the orifice. This area is to the right of where the RadarSat map seems to indicate the opening. Since the geographers are mapping an inward slope on a flat map surface, however, some shuffling must occur. Brinsley Le Pour Trench mentions that the Russian base of Vostok is on the edge of the area of inaccessibility, understatement, of Antarctica, so the opening must be towards the pole from Vostok. Perhaps if we were to drag the area where the wind patterns originate to a point a bit closer to Vostok and the pole, we would then have correspondence between the point where the radar sat map indicates the opening, and the area where the Antarctic wind pattern map shows the origin of the wind patterns.